But on a biodynamic farm, you manage to solve those two problems. So what you do is, if I farm organically with grapes, it's much better for nature than to use herbicides and pesticides and fungicides. But when I make wine, I have a lot of waste. I have a mountain of pips and stems and skins that I must do something. If I put them behind the hill where you can't see them, I will acidify that soil and you will not be able to grow grapes there again. If I farm organically with my cows, they are lucky. They have names, they don't have numbers. I don't take them away from their mother when they're 9 months old. I don't give them antibiotics and growth hormones. They're not objects of meat or milk. They are subjects. They lead lives of integrity. We respect their cowness, if I can call it that. But where they sleep, they leave a lot of manure, and that manure is high in nitrogen, and over time that area also becomes difficult to farm because the nitrogen levels come too high. But in a biodynamic farm, if you see it as an individuality, you align the different organic systems to feed off each other in synergistic fashion. So we take the waste from the cellar and we feed that to the cows. And the timing is perfect because we make our wine when it's dry, it's sort of autumn, end of summer. There's no greenness for them. We have some bales for them, but this is a great source of green food that they also need. And by the same time, we can then take all the waste from the cows, make compost with it, and put that back in the business. So the net effect is, when I farmed conventionally, I would spend 100,000 Rand a year on fertilizer. When I farmed organically, I would spend 100,000 a year on organic fertilizer. Now we spend nothing. If anything, we sell 100,000 rands a year of oxen and heifers. Plus, we don't have this problem of animal waste or cellar waste. So that to me is the biggest one of biodynamic farming. And I think people must acknowledge that. I think too many people get caught in this voodoo of viticulture and the preps and the moon. And they are all relevant, and we use all of the preps. We follow the biodynamic calendar. But even there, I want to say to you that it is a very old form of organic farming. It comes from a time when our ancestors had a spiritual understanding of farming. Today, we live in an age where we have a scientific understanding of farming. So depending on you, you can either make sense in the spiritual way, like somebody like Nicolas Joly would, or you can do the same methodology, but understand it more in a scientific way, like somebody like Vanya Cullen would from Cullen Wines in Australia, for example. So it really is, knowledge is an interesting thing. It's always evolving. There's a lot of stuff that we do know for sure, but there's also a lot of things that we don't know yet. And I think it's just a good idea to try and keep an open mind and be proud of what you know, but also have respect for the bits and pieces that we don't understand yet. So we use all the preps. We've got the animal husbandry. It's 100% Demeter certified farm as well. And I think that's sort of the farming aspect of organics and biodynamics. But now I want to go back to that gentleman from the university who came and said, rather farm properly and put nature properly, rather, 80% farm properly, 20% wilderness. So with all of these flowers, and because we don't use herbicides and things and pesticides, there is a lot of insects on the farm. If you look around, you can see some of the butterflies and the things flying around. So we have a lot of entomologists who come from the university. They document them, they catalog them. And one of the ladies is a Dr. Reyneke Geiger, and she came and she did a PhD on insects on the farm. So one day her promoter came also for a wine tasting, and I said to him, one of your colleagues suggested that I don't farm like this. I rather farm properly in an industrialized way so that I can have sufficient yields and so that I don't contaminate my neighbors, and then I protect wilderness. What do you think? And he said it is not a binary problem. It is not either or. You have to do both. And the reason is as follows. If you look at regenerative agriculture, organics, biodynamics, sustainable farming, it is so important because global warming now, one of the big 5 contributors is agriculture. So as people, farming is one of the biggest things that we do as a human race to really push global warming. That's a scary thought, because I don't want to wake up every morning and make the planet worse or be one of the big 5 polluters, if I can call it that. The benefit is if you can reverse it, if you change it to regenerative agriculture, it is one of the 5 biggest solutions we have to slow down or reduce global warming. So you can either make things worse or you can make things better through a farm. So it is hugely important to farm regeneratively. It is, today I can tell you, it's totally financially viable once you understand how to do it. Our yields are now the same as they were when we farmed conventionally, but the costs are a fraction thereof. So our farmers become a lot more profitable than it was 20 years ago. And it's more creative to farm this way, and it's beautiful, and my daughters can live in a healthy environment where they can breathe fresh farm air. You know, I mean, these things are really important. Land sparing is the other side. That's the wilderness pocket. That's also crucial. So if you go 1500s to where we are now, 30% of species are gone. I mean, that's scary, and that's us and our ancestors who have done that. A third of species are completely destroyed, extinct, because of how we've lived. I mean, it's just crazy. If I just look at the Western Cape, there are over 200 plant species that are being endangered through agriculture. So you can also not just farm regeneratively and say, I'm sequestrating carbon, I'm doing good for global warming, my farm is carbon negative. I also have to look at biodiversity. Those fynbos plants that grow there, they are crucial. The jackal buzzard that is sitting on the pole over there is crucial. These animals, the guinea fowl that you hear calling over there, they are all part of farming. So how does this tie up with viticulture? This regenerative is good for quality, because wine it must have a sense of place. It's all about terroir. This is terroir. It's not from a packet, it's nature. So the more honest you can keep the terroir, the better. If you look consistently at the scores of our wines over the last 20 years, across the board, whether it's European, American, UK, Canadian, South African, they upped and upped and upped and upped. We're not making the wine more, we're actually growing it. There's no yeast, there's no DAP or tartaric acid, and all of that has become possible because the soil has become alive, the yeast is alive, the humus levels are increasing, the pH in the soil is rising, we've got a natural lower pH, higher acidity in our juice and our wines as a consequence. It's just better, more honest wine that comes from here. But that wilderness is equally important, because in nature, the more diverse an ecosystem, the more stable it becomes. So if you invest money, you don't put it in one investment, you spread it. It's the same with nature. So this type of farming is more diverse than conventional farming, but wilderness is more diverse than this type of farming. So it's absolutely crucial to have pockets where all the insects and all the checks and balances of nature's ecosystem can survive and can thrive on the farm, because it brings balance. So some people have asked me, yes, wouldn't you make more money if you put vineyards there? Maybe I would, but I would also have to spend more on pesticides to control the pest populations and things on the farm. So if you look at the contours there, at the lines, they play significant roles. It's fascinating. So initially, we put them there to harvest water. We have a dry country. So we harvest the water, we built a top dam for it. We harvest water in the bottom dam. We put a solar panel on the bottom dam to pump the water up to the top dam. That's nice. We harvest our water, we reduce the erosion, we reduce the runoff. But we have a pocket of wilderness over there, but we have pockets of wilderness over there, we have pockets of wilderness over there. And what we now want to do is we want to link them with biodiverse corridors. So if you have a contour like that, the bottom wall of the contour is maybe 3 or 4 meters that you cannot farm on, you can't drive on it. So we have a lady who comes and she harvests plants and seeds and cuttings from those pockets. So we're not talking indigenous to South Africa, we're talking endemic, things that have over evolution and millennia evolved to survive here or within a 5-kilometer radius of this site. They're unique plants. If you have a botanist, they go in there, they've already found 5 critically endangered plants just in that small little valley over there. So what one can then do is, if you establish corridors on the bottom side of the contours, you can then link all the wilderness pockets on the farm. So that is how, at least from a farming perspective, we see land caring, land sparing, and how it ties up with quality. Quality grape production, and also integrity for the soil, for the wilderness, for the microbes, for the cows and everything else that we try and do.